everyone, and thanks for joining us here at Flute Tube. Last week I did an episode on trilling, and obviously if you do very many trills, you're going to end up using your right hand trill keys quite a bit. So I had a student ask me a follow-up question about which fingers should hit which trill keys, and there is a rule about that. You can decide whether or not to follow this rule. Not everybody does, but I teach quite serious flute majors at a major university, and I also teach quite serious pre-college students. I do have my own students follow this rule about assigning fingers to trill keys. I'll give you the rule, you can decide if you like it and if you want to follow it. After all, it's your flute and they're your fingers. I grew up not knowing there was such a thing as this rule, and I never heard of it until I attended a master class when I was in my late teens. The teacher at this class presented this rule to us as though it was a known fact to everyone. At the time, I left the masterclass feeling a little bad that I had not even heard of this rule. But as I started to think about my playing, I realized that even though I'd never thought about it, I was following it. At first, when I realized I was just doing this without ever having been told to do it, I felt a little extra proud of myself, like, hey, I just recreated this rule all on my own. But then I started to realize that probably a lot of people do, and that's why somebody came up with the idea to call it a rule in the first place. I'm not going to keep the suspense going any longer. I'll go ahead and tell you what it is that you're supposed to do, and then I'll explain to you why I think it's easy that people just fall into doing this very naturally. The rule is just kidding. I have no doubt you all are just in so much suspense right now. To put it simply, the rule is that you move your right hand fingers towards your face when you are catching those trill keys with your right hand fingers. So you end up moving your fingers to their left towards your face. That means, of course, that your index finger catches your B flat lever, and if you have it, your C sharp lever. Your second finger, we're talking flute fingers, so your thumb doesn't count. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Your second finger catches the first trill key, and your third finger catches the second trill key. You would think this is a good deal for your fourth finger because it's not assigned to a trill key. But of course, your fourth finger is assigned to deal with all of these foot joint keys. So it doesn't get off easy. It just has a different set of keys to deal with than these fingers do. Let's look at why this rule makes so much intuitive sense. Reason number 1. Obviously, your index finger is the only one that can catch this B flat lever, and if you have it, also the C sharp trill key. So your index finger must be assigned to both of these keys. There's no alternative. You may or may not have this C sharp trill key. If you're confused about what it is, go watch my episode, Why Get a C sharp Trill Key? But you do all have a B flat lever, and you should all use it. I don't want you to ignore it and think, well, I can just put my right hand index finger over here on this trill key because I don't ever use anything over here. You want to use this B flat lever whenever it's to your advantage. And if you're in doubt about that, go watch my episode called Choose Your B Flats Wisely. Now that in my own mind at least, I have firmly established why you need to move your index finger to the left and catch these two keys with it, we can explain all the other fingers. You don't want to double assign this index finger. You don't want it to move both to the left of the key to catch 1 or 2 keys over here and to the right of the key to catch this trill key. Just give it one assignment, which means that all these other fingers are going to want to move sympathetically to the left as well. They each are assigned a regular key and an auxiliary key or 2, and that evens out the workload for everybody. Once your right hand fingers are assigned to their 2 or potentially 3 keys, and we've evened out that workload, it also means that everything moves very predictably and reliably. You never have to second guess, am I going to move my index finger this way or this way? Will I use my index finger or will I use my second finger? You just always have a plan, and it does make things a little more predictable and efficient. But aside from evening out the workload for your fingers, there's another very compelling reason to assign fingers to the keys exactly as we just did. Does anyone know what that compelling reason is? Anybody? Anybody? Here's the thing. Think about how you finger your top register notes. Let's keep it very simple. Think about playing a chromatic scale that's just high A to high B. How are you going to do it? You must use your second finger on this first trill key to play the high B flat, and that means your only option to play high B is to use your third finger on the second trill key. If you get used to using your index finger on this first trill key fairly often, you just can't use it here, and you're gonna have to be going back and forth with that finger, which we want to avoid just so that your technique is as fast and reliable as possible. Also, if you ever happen to go up and play in the stratosphere, the E flat above high D, you have another case where you have to push this key down and this first trill key for high E flat, so you have to use your second finger for this trill key. And then the high F fingering that I like to use, again, you have to have this finger down and this trill key, so it reinforces that you need to use your third finger on that second trill key. There is one possible exception to this rule of always moving your fingers to the left. That is if you happen to be going from high B to high F sharp and you want to use the traditional fingering, it's better to play the trill key with the second finger so that you're not sliding this third finger down from the trill key. However, going from high B to high F sharp, it's really better not to use the traditional fingering on the F sharp. It's really better to use this second finger. If you don't know why, watch my episode called High Note Hacks. I talk about going from B to F sharp and A to E. And it's really better to finger the F sharp with this second finger in that case. So once again, we're just reinforcing doing this rule of moving all these fingers to the left all the time. I hope all of this has given you some good things to think about in your playing and or in your teaching. It's really good for us to optimize what we're doing. It's more efficient to assign your fingers to trill keys, and then you never have to think about it again. That's the advantage of having good rules. Once you determine that those rules are worth following, then you just don't have to think about it again. You simply have already made that choice and you follow that rule. What about you? Do you follow this rule already? Maybe you follow it instinctively, as I think a lot of people do. Or do you have a different opinion? Let us know in the comments. If you feel like you learned something, please give me a like and consider subscribing. Thank you.